Welcome to Women of the Wild,
where education and opportunities are key,
and friendships are made to last a lifetime.
Did you get it?
You think we got him? You think we got him? We got him. You said that yesterday.
All right, Skylar, what do we got here?
We've got a nice looking rip-off.
Yeah. Oh, there she is. You dropped our great ghost.
Give me a hug.
Hello, and welcome to another episode of Women of the Wild podcast. I am your host, Linda White, and I'm sitting here with Megan Lockwood. Hi, Megan. How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm great. So for those that don't know, Megan is an ambassador, a team member of Women of the Wild. And we're going to kind of dive in and exactly give you a little bit of a background because this girl is amazing. So Megan, why don't you tell us a little bit about how you got started in the outdoors? Because I mean, you've got everything going on.
Yeah, I kind of dabble in a little bit of everything. So I got into the outdoors as a young gun. I'm raised by a single mother. She got us into 4-H. I grew up around farm animals my whole life. I started showing horses, then switched over to livestock. Started a little bit of trapping on the farm, problem raccoons, that kind of thing. My mom enrolled me into shooting sports. I think when I was 10 years old was this earliest, and my mom doesn't shoot. So I was like, what the heck? How am I going to learn? She quickly got me a bow. She got me into shooting sport, like the meetings and going to the gun club and learning how to shoot archery. And then from there, the passion of the outdoors just grew immensely. I started shooting 3D archery. I started participating in the shoots with the Michigan State archery team and went to state shoots a couple times and placed there. And then my passion grew for hunting quickly. I was on my mom about letting me harvest a deer. And she was like, no, you're too young. What are you going to do with it? I don't know anything about processing deer. And I was just like, just let me try. So she let me try when I was 15. And I've harvested my first deer from there.
Wow.
And yeah. So, and that's all she wrote. From there on, it's pretty much taken over my life. I have 2 children and I went to college to be a doctor, and I did some nursing in between, and now I trap wildlife for a living. So the outdoors has completely taken over my whole life, and learning about the different animals and their habits and why they do the things that they do. And it's just a big passion of mine, 100%.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Okay, I'm gonna back up just a little bit because you covered a lot of stuff right there in this tiny little bit of time. So,
Right.
So the shooting thing, if that wasn't something that your mom did, how did that even become a topic, I guess? How did that even come about?
I was like a nature freak as a kid. So
Okay.
I'm super passionate about reptiles and amphibians and the colder species, things that are cold-blooded. And my mom was like, this kid is wild. She's always outside doing crazy stuff, bringing snakes home and frogs home. She hated that. And she was like, I don't know. My sisters were content with the baking, like 4-H baked goods. And my older sister, she was really into horses, and I was just kind of like, eh. And then my mom asked me, would you want to start shooting archery? And I was like, yeah. And really, that's all it took, was her to hear a yes, and she signed me up. And my uncle Scott, he gave me my first bow, which was this old Darton, nothing like my bow today.
Mhm.
And I think when I started, I could pull back 19 pounds. And, I was the only girl at a lot of these meets as a little tiny thing.
Right.
You're surrounded by a bunch of boys. And when I was on the Michigan State archery team, I was the only girl up until I graduated high school. The
Wow.
only girl on the team. Yeah. So it was pretty cool, pretty eye-opening. I've always been into what people consider boy activities.
Right.
And a lot of people are like, where did you even come from? Where did you come from? My sisters are not anything like me, except for my younger sister, Olivia, who's 17. But I've kind of molded her into this little outdoor girl because she loves it just as much as I do.
Yeah. It's funny that you said, where did you come from? Because when you and I first met, I said the same thing. Like, where did you come from? You just like
Right.
out of nowhere. So
Right.
That's funny that you said that. I gotta say, the whole reptile thing, I totally see that, because for those that don't know, Megan and I shared a room for a couple nights, and she froze me out. So I can see the reptile. She walked in the room, and I'm like cuddled under this little blanket and everything. So I can see the reptile thing going for you.
Yeah.
So that's really cool. So, okay. So we're now up to when you graduated high school and you went in to become a doctor. You went to college to
Yeah.
become a doctor?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
So in high school, I began my training as a certified nurse aide. I got that my 10th grade year. I worked as a nurse aide up until, I want to say, 2 years after I graduated high school. And then after I graduated high school, I stayed home and went to our community college, because in high school I took classes which were AP classes, and I got college credits.
Oh, yeah.
So I figured I would just stay home, get the rest of my prereqs done, spend the big money, at a university after those easy classes were out of the way. And from there, I got my medical assisting. So I just worked my way up the ladder.
Right.
And when I moved to Cincinnati, Ohio, so I'm born and raised in Michigan. I moved to Cincinnati, Ohio in 2018. And at that point, I was doing travel nursing. So
Okay.
I had a couple clients that were up in Michigan, and their specialists were down here in Cincinnati. I fell in love with the area. Like, we have beautiful winters here. It's not like a Michigan winter. Like, our grass is still green right now, and we're supposed to be getting this storm coming in. And
Yeah.
I love it here.
I'm in New York looking at all the snow and the blowing and everything.
Yeah.
And yeah.
It's 44 degrees out. I think tonight it's supposed to be like -4 with a wind chill of -35. So it'll be cold, but it's not like that all the time.
You're not sleeping outside tonight, are you?
No sleeping outside tonight. I would though.
I know you would.
I did a winter camping trip a couple years ago. It was before I met Jonathan, and the coldest night was -2.
Oh,
and
crazy.
I'm not talking in a tent. I'm talking in like a little canvas 4x5 canvas tarp lean-to. And I slept under there with a fire, and it was nice and toasty.
Yeah, sure it was. Okay. So,
I'm into
okay, so you
survival
moved.
stuff.
Sorry, you got a little sidetracked there.
Yeah, definitely.
So you moved to Cincinnati
Yep.
as a travel nurse, but how do I want to put this? So you now own your own nuisance wildlife business.
Yep.
And you do that full time. You and your fiance do that full time.
Yep.
How the heck? Like, I mean, I'm totally for it, but
Right.
where do you go from, having all of
transition?
having all this education, I'm going to be a doctor, to,
Right.
you know what? I'm just going to hang out with the wildlife.
Yeah. So after I moved down here, my travel nursing stuff was up in Michigan, and I moved down here on a whim. And I figured I would just pick up, some home care or go to one of the hospitals that I worked at, doing some stuff with them. And once I got to Cincinnati and I saw like the living conditions in home care that our elders are living in with no resources to help them, it broke my heart. And for like 3 weeks, I would come home from one client's house and I would cry like all night long. And finally, I was just like, I can't do this anymore. Like, I don't know what to do. Like, I could go work in long-term care, which I did that for, I think, a total of about 12 years was long-term care, Alzheimer, dementia stuff. And I knew I could fall back on that. But at the same time, I was getting pretty burnout of just nursing in general. Jonathan, my fiance, he has his plant pest control specialist certification or license here in Ohio because he worked on invasive species projects like emerald ash borer, walnut twig beetle, that kind of thing.
Oh, wow.
So he already had all that knowledge, like with the bugs, the insects, the different invasive mammals and that kind of thing, being that he worked for the Department of Agriculture here in Ohio. And so he was getting burnt out of his state position too. And we were just kind of throwing the idea around. And what we first were molding our business into was more like ecosystem management, like micro ecosystem. So say you have 10 acres and you want to grow it into like a turkey wildlife sanctuary for wild turkeys. We would come in, we would make changes to the land and, help grow your population. Trapping involves that as well. So that was a basis, wildlife trapping. And then it kind of just shaped itself into what it is. And we're just solely nuisance control. We do anything from ants, carpenter bees, centipedes, rodents, mice, rats, all the way up to bigger wildlife. We just got a call in Kentucky for a wild turkey that's terrorizing a neighborhood, but we can't touch it because Kentucky has some funny laws with wild turkeys. If it were here in Ohio, we could go take that turkey away and they would write us a permit for it.
Yeah.
Kentucky is not that way. So we do everything. We even remove dead animals. A deer gets hit in front of your house and it's in your yard and you don't want it in your yard anymore. You can call us and we'll come pick it up and, So, and we do everything. We fix the holes. We fix the issues so that if it's raccoons, they don't get in the future. So we're pretty much a one-stop shop. We'll get rid of the problem and solve it so it doesn't happen again.
So, okay, we're going to do a little plug here. If anybody is in Cincinnati and needs her services, who would we call? How would we get a hold of you? What's the name of your business?
You can call myself. My business, Jonathan and I's business, is Animal Removal and Control, or ARC. You can call myself. My phone number is 513-806-8556.
Yeah, no. So, okay. Now everybody knows how to get a hold of you. I guess I get the question is was the change good? Are you happy? Is this what you were meant to do?
I 100% think it's meant for me. I honestly don't think I'll ever go back to nursing. Honestly, unless I absolutely had to fall back on it. But this has grown just my happiness alone. I'm doing something that I'm passionate about. I'm learning stuff every single day. In nursing, you learn new things every day as well. But like this to me is a necessity, even though average people don't think they'll ever need our services. Right. Raccoons, squirrels, bats, they are not prejudiced against you. They are going to come in whether or not they want to, or whether or not you want them to.
Right.
So it's a little niche, and I honestly will never give it up. So
that's awesome. That's awesome that you're able to spend time with your significant other doing that, something that you really enjoy and provide for your family by doing it. Like, I think
Right.
you kind of hit all of the perfect
Yeah.
little bullet points there that we all dream for. So that's awesome.
And everybody always asks me, like, how do I take so much time off in the fall? And I'm just like, because I bust my butt all year long, and the fall is our time to shine. And we are such avid hunters and trappers, and we want to go out and do stuff that we love. And we're both in our 30s, mid 30s now, and like we don't want to sit back and look back on life and be like, I wish I did that,
Right.
So. And with this business, we have grown the means to be able to do that. I don't have to ask for time off. I don't have to put my 2 weeks, like, not notice in, but I don't have to request it 6 weeks in advance. And I don't have to rely on a yes or no answer. I can just say, you know what? Tennessee sounds nice. It's only 5 hours away. I can finish my job and go away for the weekend,
Right.
So
Right.
it's
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
freedom.
So
Yep.
let's talk a little bit about Tennessee. So,
Yeah.
there is a women's trapping camp. So for those that don't know, Megan was pretty much our spokesperson for the She Side, which was a women's workshop at the NTA, and which is the National Trappers Association convention. And that's kind of how Megan and I really first connected. Was I put a notice out there on Facebook and I asked, all right, is there anybody who's willing to help with this? And I'm not kidding. She came out of the woodwork. I never really connected with her. Apparently she had been following me, but we hadn't really connected before. And she came out and, like, honestly, she was our superstar. I don't know if it would have been the success that it was. And now I have the privilege of working with her on different women's events through Women of the Wild and outside of it. So this January, we're going to be in Tennessee. There's a women's weekend. It's a trapping women's weekend. We're going to come down. It's Friday and Saturday, and then kind of Sunday if you want. But so Megan's going to run the whole water part of it.
Yeah.
And I'm super excited about that. We have, I'm going to be working with a woman, and we're going to do the land. Megan is going to take care of the water part. And then, we also have a woman who is going to kind of come in and talk about skinning and what you can do with the fur and everything like that. So, but I do want to talk to Megan a little bit about, so this isn't the first class that she's done with me. Though we did a Women of the Wild, and she's kind of taken over the water part whenever we did the Women of the Wild class. And what kind of sparks you, Megan, in being a part of these classes? Why do you want to pass that knowledge on? You volunteer. You are literally every time I ever put anything out, Megan's like, oh, me. So
Me. Yeah, no. So, okay, it kind of falls back into growing up in the wild and doing outdoor things and always feeling, I don't like to say less of or less than, but sometimes it came across that way. So even in archery competitions, not so much my 4-H leaders, but you're at a shoot, and you're the only girl on the team, and you automatically feel just that little bit of left out, and growing up throughout, whether it was trapping, archery, hunting, fishing. That is not my forte. I'm not a fisherman. But anything really outdoorsy, it really didn't start taking off until, I would say, about 10 years ago, where more women were becoming more active in the outdoor world.
Mhm.
Growing up, I always had Lee and Tiffany, on the outdoor channel.
Lakoski, yeah.
Yeah. And you watch Tiffany shoot these giant whitetail, and you're like, I'm going to be that girl one day, and I'm kind of living that dream right now. But at the same time, once you put that PSA out about the She Side, and I was like, you know what? It's in Lima, Ohio. I drive right past that. It's 2 hours from my house. I was like, I want to be a part of that. I want to be a part of getting more women not only just women, but children, boys and girls, into trapping, into the outdoors, showing them, educating them, passing wisdom down that I've learned along the ways. Because even me growing up, it was, I would say, late 90s, early 2000s. Not many people are going to still give you the information on how to set a certain trap or how to do a certain thing in the woods. And God forbid I wanted to hang a tree stand and I needed somebody stronger than me to do it. And then I had to work on their time. So, being able to educate women that you can actually do this stuff on your own. And there's techniques and ways of doing it on your own that you really don't need to go out and ask for help unless you're uncertain, or women tend to flock towards women for information and education because we're a little bit more gentle and we actually listen. I'm not saying anything bad about our male counterparts because I've worked alongside of plenty of men. I've always worked outside and done man jobs and that kind of thing, but women just seem to be a little bit more gentle on how we are able to teach. So the She Side really just sparked that up. And then I saw your trapping class with Women of the Wild. And I think I messaged you first and I said, Linda, do you need help with that? I'm more than happy to help with that. And then sparked into applying for the ambassador position for Women of the Wild and taking it off from there. And I think it's just going to do bigger and better things, not just for myself, because that's not what it's about. I'm about getting more education. Like Tennessee, I'm pumped for.
Yeah.
To have that many girls there for a whole weekend or committing their time to us and being able to share our information. I am extremely excited for that one. And then Ohio in the fall, that's going to be awesome too.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And there's a lot of other events with Women of the Wild that you are going on. And I'm sure in the future will probably be the PR and running the whole thing. Cause I'm going to tell you guys, like, seriously, when you hang out with Megan, it is a good time.
We have a good time, right?
We do. We have a good time. Yeah, there's a lot of fun, a lot of information coming. But I did want to step on something that you said about living the dream of like a Tiffany Lakoski thing. So, for those that haven't seen, or maybe you have and you thought, oh, that name, Megan Lockwood, that sounds really familiar. You might have seen an article about her in the, what is it, North American Whitetail, right?
Yeah.
Magazine. So let's talk a little bit about that article because that's kind of impressive.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing. It's very surreal. 21 season of 21, a bow season here in Ohio. I was able to arrow a 170 plus inch buck, whitetail buck at 13 yards, and he only ran 30. And I had chased this deer the season prior in 2020, and I had my heart set on that deer. Like, people knew he was off limits, but if they saw him and they shot him, like, I wouldn't have been too mad, but at the
you would have.
like, I would be like, okay, but I was able to harvest him last year. We call him the Megan buck. He is a 10-point complete typical. He's in like the point, it's 0.01 percentile for typical whitetail. And so they wrote I wrote the article and submitted it per request of North American Whitetail. They reached out to me and they wanted the article, so I wrote it and submitted it.
Now, how long you held a record in Ohio with that deer? Right?
For 2 weeks. For 2 weeks.
That's rough, man.
Yeah. So I was the #1 female archery buck with a long bow. So there's crossbows, there's long bows, and I shoot a compound. and I held it for 2 weeks. And then another girl, she comes in and smokes a 190 plus buck with her compound. And I was just like, I was hoping, no offense, Nicole, I love her to death, but I was like, I was hoping you shot it with a crossbow. Just so I could hold that title a little bit longer, but no. So that just means I have to light a fire under my own butt and pass up these smaller bucks and hopefully grow one big enough to where I can beat that out, because that's the end goal. I don't care if I ever do, but you always want something bigger and better.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. I think
And
that's important, like in anything that you're doing, you know, you have
Right.
that goal, and once you hit it and you achieve it, it's great to celebrate. But at the same
Right.
time, what it keeps you moving forward to, you know, well, all right, well, what's next? What's next?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I'm not a trophy hunter by any means. Like that deer, he was put in the freezer, we ate him. But at the same time, I do harvest enough does and fill my doe tags to be able to wait out on something a lot bigger than an average Joe deer. So that's what I do. And it's hard work, but I've definitely gone in plenty of seasons. I think before I shot that deer last year, it ended like a 7-year dry spell of no bucks.
Oh.
Yeah. And the 1 year I shot and missed 3 decent deer, like 3 decent bucks the year prior. So I was just getting fed up. And then this one happened and it was like, oh yes, perfect.
Yeah.
But
so now you primarily archery hunt, or do you only archery hunt?
So I only whitetail archery hunt.
Okay.
Like here in Ohio, that's all I do is just bow hunt. And the last 2 seasons, I've had my tags filled for a buck before gun season's even a thought. So I'm not against it, but I grew up bow hunting. I've never killed a whitetail with a gun, honestly. I can honestly say that. And but we hunt all over the place. We hunt out in Idaho, Colorado, Montana. We've been Wyoming. I killed a pronghorn in 2018, and that was with my rifle. But I bow hunt elk. So it kind of gives and takes. Like I shot my bear with a rifle, you know. So, but that's all long range stuff up in the mountains, where I rather be on. Like this year, I shot my buck on the ground at 8 yards with no blind, no tree stand, just sitting on a bucket. So I'm trying to like up my my way of hunting. I'm gonna try to stalk one this upcoming year next year. So
oh wow. So since you're hunting all over the place, how do you go about, I mean, now we have the events obviously with Women of the Wild. So if anybody ever wanted to jump on them, they could, but
yeah,
how have you managed to do this? Are you going with guides? Are you networking with people who are like, hey, I got some land? How are you getting to all of these different places?
So we actually hunt public land. So
okay.
National forest. When we archery hunt elk in Colorado, we do over the counter tag, and it's usually national forest. And I would say Jonathan and I are pretty skilled hunters. I killed a bull in 2011, and then I hadn't been back out until I met Jonathan, and we went out in 18. And then I hung my bow up. He's been chasing an elk for a decade, and he finally shot his first bull this year. So this year we actually both bought tags, and we were always, after he shot his, we were always behind the herds. You know, I could never get close enough to actually make a shot, but I killed one last year. And then Wyoming pronghorn, that was the draw tag, and then we used public land out there. So we haven't really done any guide service work, you know, like not work, but we haven't really gone on any hunts. We pretty much map it out on Onyx, get a game plan, prep out, and hit the mountains and backpack in and stay in there for as long as it takes. Some days we come home empty-handed. It's just hunting.
Yeah. So here, can you give advice for anybody who's listening? They can't afford a guide or anything, but obviously, public land, that seems like a cheaper way to go.
Right.
Any advice for anybody who might be interested in doing that? What are some things that they need to really pay attention to and really kind of have before, they get into something like that?
So like okay, for instance, last year I shot my elk in unit 80 out in Colorado, archery elk. And then in 2022, that unit went to draw. So we put in for that unit, we didn't draw, and we had been hunting there 4 years prior. So we knew the lay of the land, where the elk tend to be. We pretty much had it patterned out where we could pick where the elk would be. Now it went to draw, so we had to pick somewhere new. And it was between two different units, 26, which is Steamboat Springs, Colorado area, or it's 60, unit 60 or 62, 65. It's over in Montrose area.
Okay.
And so we looked up on Onyx. We studied the lay of the land. There's different map systems within that actual app itself, and you can turn them on, and it shows like the winter migration units or patterns, the summer migration patterns, and you kind of follow like what public roads are in that way, how easily accessible. You really got to learn how to read a map in topography. You got to read those elevation changes, because I would hate for you to get out there and, it looks like it's real easy hike on the map, and then you get out there and it's straight up and down. So really learning how to read the topography. There's some great YouTube videos out there for that, that kind of walk you through to show you the distance between the lines and how far it actually is, how steep it's going to be on that map, or when you physically get there. And then I personally reached out to a couple of the local ranger offices out there for the different wildlife areas, and kind of talked to them beforehand about elk population, predator population. You don't want to go somewhere where there's going to be a high wolf population, because everybody knows they eat a lot of elk, they eat a lot of deer. So if you have a high presence of wolves, you're not going to have a high presence of elk. They're going to be on private land where they're easily controlled.
Right.
So you just have to really do your research. There's great forums out there online. Hell, you can PM me on Facebook or whatever, and I'll give you as much information as I have. I'm a pretty open book, because I like to see people be successful. So if I can give them just a tidbit of information, then that's what I'm going to do. Like, I cow call a lot for elk, and when I have a cow back, I'll match her calls so that she thinks, it's just a game of talking back and forth. And usually they'll come in, and at that point in time in the year, they have a bull with them. So I've had lots of opportunities, just missed opportunities, I guess.
And now a short word from our sponsors.
Share your love of the outdoors with your little ones through the exciting adventures in Dr. Josh Farr's children's books. As an avid sportsman, Dr. Josh Farr has taken his passion for the outdoors and uses his vivid storytelling to teach valuable lessons and appreciation of the world. Learn the alphabet through the ABCs of hunting. Find joy in exploring the outdoors with Let's Go Out and Play and more. You and your child will love learning about nature with Dr. Josh Farr. See all of his books now at drjoshfarr.com. That's DRJOSHFARR.com.
Girls with Guns Clothing is a proud sponsor of Women of the Wilds podcast. If you are looking for hunting gear, be sure to check out our new fall collection, including the launch of our new Artemis Generation 2 lineup. With Girls with Guns, you know that our gear has been designed and field tested by women who actually hunt and wear this gear. We have an amazing team of women who contribute and share their ideas and extensive field testing so that our gear works for you in multiple hunting environments. We build our gear for women of all shapes and sizes, made by women for women. If you want to try out GWG, you can go to gwgclothing.com and use WILD15 for a discount off of your first order.
Well, you see, trappers are a special breed of people. We're dedicated, committed, and passionate about what we do and who we are. Each and every one of us has an intense desire to be the very best we can. So in the world of skinny jeans, man buns, and pumpkin spice lattes, sometimes you just have to stop, push back, and tell the world, that's not me. Whether you're from the far north or in the deep south and anywhere in between, Southern Snares can help you succeed at getting the job done and being who you are.
Hey everyone, Andy from ACC Crappie Sticks. I want to tell you about our full line of vertical jigging and live scoping crappie rods. We have from 10 foot to 13 foot in mid-seat to rear seat, and available in cork and super grip handles to cover all of your vertical fishing and live scoping needs. Go to accrappiesticks.com. Thank you.
We would also like you to check out Sawmill Creek Bait and Lures, RMC Custom Calls, Atlantic Coral Enterprise, Blast and Cast Guide Service, Epler Fur, Feather Moon Calls, Shangri-La Safaris, Shelly Emmer with Dirty Girl Guide Service, and Hunting Day Podcast. So what are some of these hunts that you have coming up? What are some things that you're on your bucket list that you'd like to do and maybe you already have plans to do?
Yeah. So last year I went on a brant hunt for brant geese, which is a North Atlantic bird. And we're going on that hunt here come January 9th. And we'll be there for a couple days up in New York.
Yeah.
So like Long Island area. So that hunt's coming up. And then in March, I'm doing the Women of the Wild Aoudad hunt, where we're going to hunt after some Aoudad ewes and some Rio wild turkeys, and possibility of either 2 javelina or 2 hogs. So I'm super pumped about that. I've never hunted in Texas, and it's backcountry hunting, which I absolutely love. I love being back there and not coming out for anything until the end of the hunt. And then hopefully I do the Women of the Wild Florida hunt. Like, I want to do that one really bad. That one's python.
In June.
Yeah, pythons, iguanas,
Yep. Alligator.
peacock bass, and alligator.
Yeah.
There's something else too, I'm pretty sure, but I don't remember.
Yeah,
But
I'm hoping I'm going to be on that one. We've been trying to set it up that I will be the PR on that, but we've got so many different trapping conventions and everything else that I'm like, how am I going to do this?
Right. Oh man, I know.
Yeah.
I'm just kind of like, because Jonathan, he's a turkey hunting machine, and he goes all over the place all spring long. Florida, South Carolina, Nebraska. He's just everywhere. So I'm like, okay, you get to go do that stuff, and I'll get to go to Texas and hopefully Florida.
Yeah.
Trade-offs.
Right. That's awesome. That's so much fun. So if you were going to pick any animal and any hunt, what would it be? Where would you go? What's the bucket list?
Easy. I would choose Alaska, and I would go after caribou with my bow. Like,
really?
That is a dream. I've dreamt of that as a little girl, watching the Outdoor Channel where they're hiding behind the rock and the migration comes through, and here comes the bull caribou, and they just shoot it. I think it's a bull. I don't even know.
So how long has that been on your, like, since you were a little girl, you wanted to do that?
100%. It's been, I would say probably 20 years.
Wow.
of wanting to do that hunt right there. And Jonathan, okay, so we're getting married, and he was like, we could go on a hunt for our wedding. And I was like, yeah, we could do that. Like, I'm game for that. And then I was like, we should just do a hunt for our
Your honeymoon.
Yeah. And he was like, okay, would you want to do Alaskan moose, caribou, brown bear? I was like, well, yeah, all of them. But we need to make a little bit more money before we go out and do all that.
So I was in Alaska in March. I was there for a women's summit. And I will have to tell you, so if you end up going, I don't know where you would go hunting, but fly into Anchorage and drive wherever you're going.
Yeah.
I flew into Anchorage and we drove to Fairbanks, and it literally took all day to drive there. But it was probably the highlight of my trip. And I got to ride in a plane with Marty from Mountain Men. So that was still probably the highlight. It was the most beautiful thing. And so, like, honestly, I didn't realize that you could take so many pictures of mountains, but I took like 143 pictures of just mountains on this drive.
Yeah.
So I hope one day you get to go. I hope that is, you know, what you guys end up doing for your honeymoon. But seriously, like, fly into that very tip and drive anywhere, because it is just gorgeous. I mean, it is absolutely gorgeous.
You know me, I like to drive, so I like to see everything I possibly can.
Yeah. And whenever you book this trip and you think, okay, a week is enough, make sure you book more days, because it's just not enough.
I remember all of that. Wasn't it like flight delay for you?
Yeah, oh my gosh, it was awful. So we had 3 days that was really kind of honed into the women's summit, you know, like that was what we were doing. And then so we were like, okay, it'll be a week, you know, we'll have 2 days before and 2 days after, and you know, it'll be fine. Well, our plane got delayed the first time when we were coming in. And so we ended up flying into Minnesota, where my sister lives, thank God, and stayed there throughout the night. We were supposed to be in Anchorage like the next morning, that night. We ended up not getting to Anchorage until like the next day. And then when we got there, our hotel had a water leak. So they shipped us to a different hotel, which I'm going to tell you was definitely the highlight right there, because the hotel that they shipped us to was way out of our price range. And I was like, all right, well,
like, cha-ching.
That's what you got to do. I mean, we'll take one for the team.
I'll take it.
Yeah.
I'll take it.
Well, it was funny because we went down to the bar that night, and I'm going through the menu, and I'm like, I think this is how much our room cost at the other place, like for the meal. I was like, oh no. Yeah, like, it was a mess. And then like even coming home, we still had like delays and everything else. So yeah. But honestly, like, we didn't get to do the things that we wanted to do because we got delayed from, you know, so we spent a lot of time with the Women's Summit, which was totally fine. I mean, that's why we were there anyways.
Yeah.
But I'm going to tell you, like, it is gorgeous. Absolutely gorgeous there. Michael, while we were there, was like looking at land like we were going to buy land or something. I was like, dude, calm down.
Isn't it cheaper there though?
It is. It is.
See?
It is.
See?
I'm not going to lie. Yeah. It's definitely cheaper, but I will tell you, so we went in March, and the way of life out there, like, and we were coming at the end of their winter. So, I mean, things were much different, but I mean, like, we went past this one, I don't know if you want to call it a village. I really wouldn't call it a village. There was like 6 homes on the side of the road. And there was a semi that was parked behind this one house. And I'm like, okay, why is there, you know, that seemed kind of odd to me. So what they do is they have this semi, and they take this semi and buy all their food and their toilet paper and everything for those 6 homes. before winter, and they don't leave after that. And I'm like,
oh, no. Oh, okay. It's a simpler way of life.
yeah,
You know,
yes.
I feel like that when we go out to Colorado and like in the mountains, you know, we go in up to the top of the mountain wherever we're gonna hunt. Then it's an hour or 2 hours down the mountain to get to town. So we just load everything up that we can possibly think that we're gonna need and take it up there. And then we get up there and we're like, God dang it, we forgot that.
Yeah. Yeah. That is one thing with all of like your destination hunts and stuff, I think, is that a lot of people don't realize how much they don't need of certain things and how much they do need of others, you know?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah. And I mean, you've got to take into consideration a lot of that you're carrying on your back. So you've got to definitely be selective.
Right. That's like when we were talking about camo and what camo to wear. And I was like, well, I do a different style of hunting. So I wear this ultra light camo and it has to be layered, where you guys are like, oh, I'd rather have the bibs. And I'm like, oh, yeah, those would drive me crazy. But I can see them, you know, it's a different style of hunting.
Yeah. Well, so we were talking to Jen from Girls for Guns. She was on the podcast and she was talking about how, like, so Jen's out in California and a lot of the things that she does is the same thing. You know, it's layered because she could leave in the morning and it be, you know, 30, 40 degrees, but by the afternoon, you know, she's looking at 80, 90 degrees.
Yeah.
Where in New York, I'm looking at 35 in the morning and maybe 32 in the afternoon.
We're going the wrong way. The temperature is going down and you're like, how is that even possible?
Right. Yeah. And well, it was funny because when her and I were talking about like different camo and different layers and everything else like that, she has a Summit line.
Yeah.
And that's a thicker line and everything. And she said, she goes, you know, that was developed because she went, I think it was Kansas hunting. Oh. And she's like, I never experienced this before. No. I never realized. She's like, the girl that she was with said, oh, you're going to get cold. And she's like, I'm always hot. I'll be fine.
Right.
Like, I was freezing. So yeah, I mean, you know, people talk all the time about, you know, oh, what's the best camo? What's this? What's that? You know, and I truly don't think that you're ever going to find the perfect camo because it always depends on what you're hunting for, what you're doing, where you're located at. You know, those things are such big factors that.
Oh, 100%. 100%. And I'm just glad like there are women-led lines now, you know, like girls with guns, you know, because they know how our bodies are shaped. They know where we need the extra fabric in the arms, or, you know, they just know because we're shaped the same. We're women. And that's one of the biggest struggles. Seriously. I actually like my mountain backpack that I take on all my hunts. I had messaged the company, it's Exo Mountain Gear. And I messaged them a couple years ago. So like, do you have a pack frame that'll fit a woman's frame? And they were like, no, but we are working on this for women. And they're like, we have a promotional one right now. Do you want to be in the field study? I was like, yes, I do. So I bought it from them and then I used it. And that's when I harvested my elk and my bear and put her to the test, and it was amazing. And going from the same exact bag, the same exact company in Jonathan's bag to just that smaller, little bit lighter frame that was made for a woman. Oh my God, hands down. My underwear weren't even falling down. That was a win for me. Because I swear to God, you have a men's pack on and it rides lower on your hips and it just works those right down.
That's great.
That's what we need to come up with, a woman's outdoor line of underwear.
There you go. They don't fall down whenever you're carrying your back.
it might need sticky grips or Velcro or something, but
I'll have to bring that up to Felicia next time that we're talking about, sponsorship things and everything.
yeah.
I'll be like, no, we're not doing calendars and cookbooks this year. We're doing underwear.
Deal. Hey, I'll take the credit for that one.
That's awesome. Oh my gosh, that's too funny. So I normally try to keep these about an hour.
Yeah.
And we're coming up on that hour here.
Okay.
But so anything that you want to tell women that maybe are starting out hunting, that are trying to get into stuff, maybe even women who they want to volunteer their time for something, but just get a little nervous. And
Right.
I mean, you've been to all those different points in your life.
Yeah.
What kind of advice would you give to women in the outdoors right now?
Right. So I'm a real red personality. Like, I'm in your face. I'm gung-ho to help. I'm a leader. I'm a leader. So I have this gumption. I'm just ready to go. I'm ready to help somebody. So if you feel nervous and you're more introverted, partner up with that person who has just a little bit more, like, I don't want to say go, but has a little bit more of the nerve to go. And if you partner up with that person, usually leaders are good listeners and they listen to everybody's ideas and they find your tribe. It can just be a simple message like Women of the Wild. I didn't know Felicia. I didn't know Cassidy. I knew you. But a lot of the other women who are the leaders, not really leaders, but the head girls, I didn't know. And then I got involved with it and I started talking to them. And that's the biggest thing is, sometimes women in the outdoors, we kind of fall to this wayside, and it shouldn't be like that. It's really finding your tribe. And in this last trapping adventure, we became closer friends, and it was just hanging out. So joining those duck hunts, the goose hunts, the sandhill crane hunt that they have coming up, the snow geese hunts, the fishing trips. Like, if you're able to just take your time and go on one of those, you're going to find somebody that you're going to click with, who might be a little bit more experienced than you are, who is going to help you along the way. Because us women who are already established in the outdoor world, we want to see more women succeed doing the things that we love doing, that we're passionate about. And we want to show you that passion and have your own passion grow and give you the confidence that you can actually do it yourself. You don't need to rely on anybody else to take you out to do it, that you can put your camo on and strap your boots on and grab your gun and go out and do it yourself. Because sometimes I just feel like there's that stereotype that women just can't do it. And it's totally wrong. And I think we are pushing forward and we're changing that whole idea.
Oh yeah,
So.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I fully agree with that. And Women of the Wild events, they should probably put out there for you. We encourage those that are brand new to think, there are some hunts that we have that, we'll post and say, you need to be a little more of an experienced hunter for it. Just because of terrain and whatnot. But for the majority of our events, we really welcome those who are brand new to everything, because we want to encourage you to get out there. We want to, help you find your tribe, help you find those people that you're looking for that can help you further on in whether it's fishing, hunting, any of that stuff. So, I think that's great that, you're pushing that too, that we need to get these classes, get out there, sign up for them. Don't be scared. I think that's the big thing. And the other thing is like you said, other women want to see other women out there, the hunting gear, like you said, it's now made for women. Well, they only make those things if they're going to sell those things. So we need more women out there buying hunting gear and all that. Yeah. So that, I think that that's a big thing, and like you said, team up with somebody, message someone, don't be scared to reach out to anybody, even
Right.
like, I guarantee you reach out to Megan and Megan's going to be like, all right, what are we doing?
I'm like, okay, new best friend, come on, I'll show you.
Yeah.
I'll teach you what I know.
Yeah. And the other thing is ladies, if you kind of have a skill, say you're big into the fishing, but you don't know anything about about hunting or anything like that. Team up with somebody who maybe is big in fish or in hunting and not so much, share those skills, reach out to those people and kind of hand off, hey, I'll teach you about this if you teach me about that. I've done that to Megan. I'm like, all right, I'll talk to you a little bit about fox trapping if you talk to me a little bit about bow hunting.
Oh yeah, this is my go-to. I'm like, Linda, I can't catch this dog. It's like sometimes it's frustrating. I'm doing really good this year.
You are
in the last week.
Awesome. Yeah, your traps are bedded solid, and you've got that stuff going. So I like it.
Every time I'm like, cha-ching, even though there's no money involved here, but
right,
like,
yes. So all right, well, we're gonna end it there unless you have anything you'd like to add or say anything.
No, I'm good.
All right. Well, we thank you for joining me and your time. And I honestly want to say thank you for all that you're doing within Women of the Wild, the time that you're volunteering, the hunts that you're willing to PR and even go on. And, women like you are what we need out there. Somebody who is down to earth, willing to give their time, willing to help, willing to listen and show others what's going on. I'm sorry, I don't mean to make you cry there, but honestly, Megan, we need more of that. And for those that are listening, Megan's on Facebook, she's on Instagram. She gave you a shout out for her business, and I guarantee you message her or hook up in some way, she's going to help you. Absolutely. And that really goes for any of the Women of the Wild. I think we have a great team and a very diverse team too. We all have our own little special skill sets. So, I mean, you can't go wrong.
I think the best thing about Women of the Wild and all the ambassadors and board members is just we're women who are mothers, wives. We run businesses. We're everyday women. We're not just sitting behind a computer desk or going on all these elaborate hunts all the time. We have our own daily lives that we partake in, and then we can get together and pick up the pieces and, help each other out to make it a successful, group of women. It's amazing to me, it's hard to find these days, and it's cool to find one.
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's nice to be able to pair up with people who it's not about drama. It's not about tearing people down. It's about building other women up, finding your skill set, your tribe, and you know what? And celebrating those ladies who, I don't know if you've ever seen any clips from Cassie, but she's gone on a couple of sturgeon trips, and Cassie's really big into the fishing. And I'm not kidding. On our opening here in the podcast, you'll hear her screaming. And the funny thing is she's screaming about this fish that they're bringing on, and it's not even her fish. Like the video, you gotta one day, like you guys gotta see this video. She is so overly excited for this woman. This was her first sturgeon that she pulled up.
Right.
Honestly, I think Cassie's more excited than the lady is.
Oh my gosh.
It's awesome.
And that's what it's about, though, is like teaching and educating and sharing your passion to where, like, I've been with people who shoot deer, and I'm more pumped that they experienced what I love than to ever be the one to pull the trigger or, let an arrow fly. It is just the best thing ever. And that's why Women of the Wild's great.
I agree. I second that. All right. Well, we're gonna sign off. Thank you all for listening. We have our calendars and our cookbooks that are up on the website. We have some brand new events that are out there, and we actually have some that Felicia is working on putting up here soon too. So there's some really cool things that are coming up. Megan's going to be on some of those trips. So if you ever want to meet Megan, make sure you sign up for some of those events.
It'll be fun.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you all for listening, and we'll see you in 2 weeks. And that concludes this episode of Women of the Wild podcast. We hope you enjoyed this episode. And if you have any questions or would like to check out our website, it is www.womenofthewild.net. We post different events and everything that we've got going on. We would really like to also thank our sponsors, ACC Crappie Sticks, Girls with Guns, Southern Snare, Sawmill Creek Baits and Lures, RMC Custom Calls, Atlantic Coral Enterprise, Blast and Cast Guide Service, Epler Fur, Feather Moon Calls, Shangalaya Safaris, Dr. Josh Farr Children's Books, and Shelly Emmer with Dirty Girl Guide Service. Thank you all, and hope that you tune in 2 weeks for our next episode.